My name is Jamie Piles. I joined Samaritan in December of 1996. We were homeschooling our kids and we were already thinking outside the world's box, if you will. And I saw a little tiny classified ad about this new kind of idea I'd never heard of before. My first reaction was, that's the kind of thing that we would do, isn't it? And so I finally called the number, talked to them, and the more I asked them questions, the more I liked their answers.
Hey y'all, welcome to Cross Politic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. It's good to be with you this Monday.
He closed his laptop.
Pastor Toby, Chalk Knox, I'm the water boy. We got a special guest.
Wow, that's what it takes.
Yeah, special guest.
Now you're not going to surf the internet.
I'm going to let you
You're
introduce our guest. Do a plug, introduce a guest, and then I got the first question.
I don't like the look on your face.
I got the first question.
I don't like the look on your face, Gabe.
Yeah.
So, first of all, how are you paying for your health care, and how is it working out for you? If it's working perfectly, great. You can keep it, as Obama once said.
No.
If it's not working out, then listen closely, because I have a solution for you, and it's a biblical solution. Samaritan Ministries is a community of Christians who pay one another's medical bills. I know, because I've used it.
That's right.
I actually am currently using it. Here's how it works. When a medical need arises, you choose the provider that's right for you.
Let's say Toby has a rash.
Whoa. And you can basically decide what kind of treatment you want. Even if it's a non-conventional approach, your medical bills are then shared with fellow members, and your need is covered both in prayer and financially.
Yeah.
It's affordable. You can join anytime. You can even join today. Learn more, though, at the very least, if you're not familiar with Samaritan Ministries, look them up, SamaritanMinistries.org, SamaritanMinistries.org, and /crosspolitic. We'll tell them that we sent you.
And that you love us.
Yeah.
Okay, both. A little of both.
A little bit of both. Dr. Larry Schweikart went to Arizona State University, received a BA in political science, an MA from ASU in history, and then a PhD from University of California, Santa Barbara. Since 1985, he's taught at the University of Dayton. Schweikart's best-selling books include 7 Events That Made America, 48 liberal lies about American history. Only 48. and his #1 New York Times bestseller with Mike Allen, A Patriot's History of the United States. Dr. Schweikart, thank you for joining us on Cross Politic.
Good. Glad to be here.
So I got first question because
I know.
Because Larry's kind of held a special place in our family.
Oh.
So my dad knew Larry.
Okay.
And they were actually in a band together back in the was it early 70s, Larry?
Oh, no, it'd be like late 60s.
Yeah, okay. Late 60s. And I think my dad actually told me, when he told me stories about you, Larry, and the band, I think he said that was the only band he ever played in that actually had a chance to go anywhere.
Well, I think we did make a record with him, yes.
Yeah. That's right.
Wow.
And then Larry, but here's the question I have for you, because Larry has an autobiography out, and he actually mentions my dad in it a couple times. And my dad became a Christian early, 70, was it 69, 70, 71, somewhere around that time frame. Larry, you were already a Christian before that. And
right.
And my dad was a turd or something, and you guys had a falling out. What happened? And then later on, you kind of rekindled. You met my dad again later on as he's a Christian, and a lot more fun to hang out with.
Well, I don't ever recall having a disagreement with him over music.
Yeah.
And he was in and out of the band because he would go to Fullerton to be with your family, and then he'd come back for a little while, and we'd play together a little while. So I think the falling out was later over theological issues, and we finally said, "Oh, it doesn't matter all that much."
What did you play, Larry? What instrument did you play?
Drums.
It's
the only instrument for a band. That's all you need. What Sly and the Family Stone said, all you need is a drummer.
That's right. Me and you gonna be all right, Larry.
So I remember my dad telling stories about you and that band, and he really liked that band. He thought it was one of the most talented bands.
What was the name of the band?
I forget. What was the name of the band, Larry?
The name was Motley Array, This is before Motley Crue came along with their nickname.
Yeah.
And I remember we played a battle of the bands over. This is after he had quit, gone over to California, then come back.
Yeah.
And we played a battle of the bands over at Rendezvous Park in Mesa, and we lost. And it just, we worked great that day. We played a long version of Southern Man. We played something by Blood Rock. And we were so good that one of the judges said, wait a minute, I want to give you guys a recording contract, even though we didn't win the Battle of the Bands. So we got a record deal out of it for one record.
Wow. Well,
that's fun. There you go. So that's why. So I've known Larry for a long time, and I've never had a good excuse to actually call him up on the phone and just kind of talk old shop. And so I was like, I'm going to get Larry on the show so I can talk to him about my dad. That's it.
Wow.
Well,
good Cross Baltic episode. We'll see you tomorrow. No.
Well, then later I went on with a different band to open for Steppenwolf, the James Gang, Savoy Brown, hung out with the Allman Brothers. The Who sat through our set at the Troubadour, which was an incredible night. So we got almost famous, as the movie says.
Yeah. So, Larry, speaking of the Battle of the Bands.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. That's good. Totally.
Is Trump going to win in 2024?
You know what Yoda says in one of the Star Wars movies is always in motion is the future, right? You never know. There are too many free radicals out there to really pin things down. He would definitely win the vote. He would win the popular vote, which is astounding for a Republican. I think he'd probably get around 80 million votes. But how many votes will they count? Are they going to count 85? Are they going to count 90? Richard Barris, the pollster, thinks they're going to manufacture close to 90 million votes this time around.
Yeah.
So remains to be seen. I haven't seen any significant work done on vote fraud anywhere in the country. A little bit in Georgia, but in the three big states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, nothing.
Well, this is interesting because you act like DeSantis isn't even like a thing. Like you just walk right over DeSantis into the...
No, he's not. DeSantis is not a thing. You can mark that down. It's interesting that Robert Kennedy Jr. on the Democrat side is closer to Joe Biden than DeSantis is to Trump on the Republican side. Now, I am a little surprised in the last 3 weeks that Vivek Ramaswamy has not made a bigger charge than he had. At one point, he was up to about 9 percentage points. He seems to have dropped back down now to 3, 4, 5 points. I think a lot of that is all these other people, the Tim Scotts and the Nick Nack Haley, as I call her, all these people coming in to siphon votes away from Vivek. But it's not siphoning votes off Trump. He's still Barris's poll for Florida came out yesterday. Trump's increased his lead in Florida to 20 points now. So no, DeSantis is not a thing.
Larry, help convince me to vote for Trump. I didn't vote for him the first time. I voted for him the second time. But everything he says makes me not want to vote for him again.
I would say everything he does made me want to vote for him 50 times over. He took us out of Trans-Pacific Partnership. That alone, folks, would have killed this country. That one move would have decimated this country. He pulled us out of the Paris Accord. That was the green energy deal all over the place. That would have killed this country. He named 3 home run Supreme Court justices. Mm-hmm. That alone has stymied the enemy for years. He had unemployment at record low levels since really the 1920s. He had black unemployment at record low levels. I could give you 100 different. He had 2/3 of the border wall built with no help whatsoever from Congress. And he did all of this with the whole deep state aligned against him, with everybody coming after him for 2 years under investigation. I think they owe him another term after this term if he wins.
I mean,
wait a second. Hold on here.
So Larry, you're a history sensei. Where are we at in the cycle of history that we're in this moment with, Trump, Biden, Hillary Clinton, FBI, like how's your history informing you in this moment?
There has never been another moment in American history where the lawlessness at the national level has been so acute and so out there. They don't care anymore. They just totally disregard all forms of law. We've just never seen anything like this. I mean, we thought Clinton was bad 30 years ago, and this guy makes Clinton sort of look like Churchill. I mean, it's just outrageous, the level of lawlessness that's going on at the federal level, and we see it, of course, at many of the state levels, including Arizona.
Wow.
So I got to go back to the voting for Trump thing, because I think it's easy to look at all the things that he's done that's been helpful, but there's been a lot of stuff that's put us in kind of a different light since COVID. That was not a good time. Whatever things he did that was good for us, he set us up pretty bad during COVID. We got Fauci.
Okay, name for me one thing he did during COVID that was bad.
He didn't fire Fauci.
Operation Warp Speed.
He could not fire Fauci. That is an absolute fallacy that the president has the right to fire a civil servant. Can't do it. Federal law. Next.
How did Fauci get into that position?
Ronald Reagan.
What?
So did he hire him? Did Ronald hire him?
Ronald Reagan appointed Dr. Fallacy, as I call him, back in 1986.
Awesome.
So then the president can't remove him from that
He
position?
can appoint but can't remove.
No. He's a civil service appointee. Now, here's another great reason to vote for Trump. Just as he was going out, he was setting up a shift to where you could get rid of the civil service type employees with what is called Schedule F, which basically turns them into regular old employees. If you don't do the job, we can fire you. Yeah. And of course, not getting reelected ended that Schedule F. So that's something we desperately need and don't have.
What about Operation Warp Speed?
Okay. Let me go back. Because we're talking history here. Let's go back to January 2020. Yep. Not a single major doctor anywhere on any continent said anything except this. This pandemic is real. It's going to kill millions of people worldwide and probably kill 20 million people in America. That's what everybody heard. There was no dissent on that. Tucker Carlson was arguing for lockdowns and the vax. Steve Bannon was arguing for lockdown and the vax. You could not find one major media person or one major doctor saying anything other than this was going to be a massive disaster if we didn't lock down. Now, who comes out first and says we need to unlock the country? Donald J. Trump. He said it in March 2020. He said we need to be open by Easter 2020. He was already distancing himself from Fauci, and I could give you 20 links on this, by April 2020. Who was the first governor to open up? Well, Kristi Noem of South Dakota, because they never even locked down.
Right.
Who was the second one? Brian Kemp of Georgia.
Right.
They unlocked sooner than DeSantis did.
And Trump
DeSantis was touting the value of the vaxes at least 1 month into this, and then he finally correctly changed his position. But let me remind you something else, guys. Right now, 82% of Americans have been vaccinated once. Over 50% of Americans have been vaccinated twice. If you want to run on anti-vax, forget it. You're done. Because a majority of Americans, I did not get the vax. I hate the vax. I think it's poison. But a majority of Americans do not see it that way. And even of that small percentage who got it now regret it, they're going to make a very small difference in anything.
So here's where I'm at, Larry, on this. Same story as Toby a little bit. And I would love to hear your take on why Trump won. I saw your book on that, why Trump won in 2016. But I didn't vote for Trump in 2016 because I figured we deserved Hillary Clinton as a country because we're just.
I didn't deserve her. I never deserved Hillary Clinton, or Cankles, as I affectionately refer to her.
And so, but Trump, to your point, he did a lot of good in his presidency, and I could trust him based off some of the things he did good. I had a real hard time with how he handled Fauci, and I had a real hard time with Operation Warp Speed, but it was between Biden and Trump, and it was an easy vote for me in 2020. Now I'm in this situation where Trump is starting to say things that are really bothering me. Like, he's making fun of or against Ron DeSantis and the 6-week abortion ban on abortion. Like, he's been outspoken about that recently.
Politically, yes, politically. He's not talking about morals here. He's saying politically it's a bad move, and politically it is. Barris's polling shows that for good or bad, the vast majority of Americans are at the point where 6 weeks is too early, past 16 weeks is too late. And on either side of that, you're going to alienate large numbers of people either way.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's kind of also getting a little bit to the heart of my frustration with the Republican Party, where we want to be a big tent, and especially when we're losing, like we're losing right now. We don't have the Senate, we don't have the executive branch, we barely have the House. And so when Republicans feel like they're losing, they start kind of broadening their message and trying to broaden this tent in a way that I think is unhelpful for the future of the Republican Party. And
I agree. And if there's so there's some interesting studies out there. There's a book called The Great Revolt by Selena Zito, not counting how Trump won, where we went into a lot of this. And Zito was one of the first reporters in Pennsylvania in 2015-16 to say, hey, you know what? Trump's going to win Pennsylvania. And she did this book after the 2016 election, where they interviewed only Trump supporters, thousands and thousands. They did this giant poll, but they also engaged in very deep interviews, along with a friend of mine named Jack Kubowski, and his book is called Bellwether Blues. Both of them came to the same conclusion, which was there is a massive, what Rich Barris calls an undervote. And these people hate Democrats and they hate Republicans, but they love Donald Trump. And they will come out in an election where Donald Trump is on the ticket, but they will not come out in the 2018 midterm or the 2022 midterm because Trump is not on the ticket. And Barris's polling found that this number amounts to about 10 to 13 million people who will stay home if Trump is not on the ticket. They will stay home if it's DeSantis. They will stay home if it's Tim Scott. They will stay home if it's Nick Haley. They will stay home.
Wow. That's interesting.
So you're looking at a massive loss if it's anybody at Trump, but Trump on that ticket. So the only thing that we need to worry about is not getting out the votes. We need to worry about stopping the fraud.
That's why you felt like he lost this last time, or you think it was just fraud?
I think, yes. I think there's no way Rutabaga, that's my affectionate name for Joe Biden. There's no way Rutabaga got 81 million votes. I'm guessing in legitimate terms, he probably got 66, 67 million votes. They had 6 months of COVID to harvest votes, to make up ballots. I mean, we just had a story yesterday of a guy who drove 280,000 phony ballots into Pennsylvania. The 2,000 Mules shows you that if you go through this, you're looking at an additional 20 million votes out there. So I think it was almost all fraud. And that's why I say Trump will probably get 75 to 80 million votes next time. How do you stop the fraud?
Well, if that's the question. If that's the case, why is it that they don't win the next time too? How do you stop the fraud?
Well, so let me back up just a little bit.
Sure.
So if the Republican Party nationally has understood this and they want DeSantis to win because he's, quote, Trump without the baggage, and you may have heard this phrase that you want to have false staff and have him thin, you want to have Johnny Winter and have him play the accordion. I mean, come on, you get Trump with all of his baggage. But if you want DeSantis thinking he's going to be Trump without the baggage, okay, my question is, what has the Republican Party nationally done to stop the fraud? And the answer is nothing.
Wait, so what do we do about that?
So it would behoove us all to, as much as possible, start smaller vote gathering, vote harvesting organizations. Rich Barris was on with Sean Parnell of Pennsylvania yesterday, and Parnell knows Pennsylvania politics, and he says the vote harvesting is not coming from the DNC. It's coming from dozens and dozens and dozens of these little vote harvesting PAC operations funded by Soros they're out there at work now. So the first thing we need to do is to start building up our own vote harvesting organizations. The second ray of hope I have is that they aren't going to have 6 months of COVID this time under which to conceal the 2,000 mules and the vote harvesting. It's going to have to all be compacted into less than a month. And we're aware of it. And this time we will have more people watching, to the extent they aren't kicking us out of the vote counting
process
buildings the way they did in 2020.
Wow.
So wait, I've heard some of this talk happen, and I can't believe my ears. So you're actually saying we should start harvesting votes just like they are?
Sure, it's perfectly legal.
Yeah.
And
Why wouldn't you do it if it's perfectly legal?
Explain what it is.
Okay. Harvesting means that you make sure you get a ballot out in the hands of every single registered voter who is either a Democrat or who is an independent likely to vote for you. Then you go out and you make sure with a ground campaign. We used to call it poll flushing back in the day. I would go in at 4:00 in the afternoon and they would say, okay, we have all these names here who haven't voted yet. Go get them. And we would send people out to go get them, right?
Okay.
This is vote flushing on steroids. You go out and you start getting these people out 30, 40 days out and making sure that every single ballot that's out there that even remotely has a chance of being voted for a Republican is sent back in.
Got it. So
But we were just complaining about all this.
Ballot harvesting is not filling out ballots for other people. It's trying to get ballots into every likely voter's hands, and then, if necessary, hand carrying, delivering those
box of ballots,
completed ballots to the polling stations.
All the complaints that I remember about this last election was that they were harvesting ballots. And we complained about that so much. And if it was legal to do, why were we complaining about it so much?
Because Rona McRombush, as I call her, she is clueless when it comes to strategy. We have a phenomenal guy named Scott Pressler who goes out and registers people right and left all around this country. He should be in charge of the Republican Party. But instead, we get Rona McRombush, and her solution to all this was to have a website where you report vote fraud. And so that's not going to do it. What you need to do is start these little PAC groups all around every state. And I wouldn't even waste time in California or New York.
That's right.
Although I saw a study yesterday that said New York is turning slightly redder. Nevertheless, I wouldn't waste time in those. I'd hit the big 7 or 8 states: Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, Iowa, and Nevada. And I would start hammering them 1 year out and making sure that everybody who can even breathe, if you catch my drift, who is a Republican, sends in their ballot.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not sold yet that this is the way.
But these all came out of COVID voting rules and regulations. All these states.
However, Gabe, yes and no. There's a movie called Gangs of New York that correctly shows how voting took place in New York City in the 1850s. And the Democrats, in this case, would go in. Republicans did it too. Republicans knew how to cheat a lot better in the 1800s than they do today. They're very bad cheaters today. They used to be good at it. But in New York, they would go to all the bars and they would herd all these guys down, saying, now you're going to vote for Boss Tweed. And they would make sure they voted for Boss Tweed. As soon as they were done, they would take them out, shave them, put a different coat on them, put them right back in line. Now, they didn't have driver's licenses then, which makes us a little harder today. But
and that was bad, right?
That was bad.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Do you want to win an election? I mean, I think part of the issue here is how bad do Republicans really want to win? And there is a significant theory out there held by a lot of people. The Republicans really don't want to win because then they'd have to govern and then they'd have to make people mad at them because they'd have to make certain choices.
Ouch.
What they really want to do is lose gracefully, hence the John McCain, Mitt Romney, or Minion Romney, as I call him, the Minion Romney crowd, who is all about losing gracefully. Wow. That's what a lot of Republicans like Haley and Scott and all these people are all about, is losing gracefully.
So Larry, this is an honest question. I'd love if my dad were alive today, ask him the same question. It seems to me that the previous generation of Republican leadership has really let us down. Like you know,
you think?
What's wrong with your people?
My tribe?
Yeah. What's wrong? What's wrong with your generation? Why did they set us up for this kind of failure in politics?
A lot of this came, I think, from the 1995 budget showdown with Newt Gingrich and Bill Clinton. And I think that the failure in that, when they were all attacked by the media for no reason, I mean, it was all lies, but it didn't matter. They were attacked and they were demonized. And a lot of those people never wanted to go through that again. And as a result, they kind of backed down and were more timid and, just didn't want to fight.
That's
and then
interesting.
There's a great book. It's over there. I can't hold it up right now. It's called Generations by Gene Twenge, Twenge.
Okay.
And it kind of looks at the old Generations book by Neil Strauss and William Howe that said there are these cycles that we go through in American history. Problem is, right now, we have broken that cycle. We're not behaving like the cycle usually does, which is my generation should have stepped up and kind of been the Gen X should have stepped up and been the heroes who bail us out of this and do the right thing and do the patriotic thing. Instead, they become extremely subservient to government. Do whatever government tells you. Take the vax. Okay. Don't protest. Don't try and change anything. And explaining their mentality is something that we don't have time for right now.
We'll have to do that another time. So I just have to. Oh, go ahead, Pastor.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to know, do you have a nickname for Gabe?
Oh.
No, I do not.
Oh, okay.
I don't usually have nicknames for good people, good guys.
Oh, okay.
Stop it.
I only reserve it for the, like Nancy Pelosi was Botoxic.
Oh.
Mitch McConnell's Yurtle.
Yurtle.
Chris Christie is Jersey Shore.
Yeah.
Okay. That's hilarious.
As in the entire Jersey Shore.
No. We
got it.
I put that. I heard the poetry.
I want to say something though, because Gabe asked this earlier. Because he was asking, how did Trump win in 2016? And there were a lot of things Trump did in 2016 that obviously he had this base of the undervote of 10 to 12 million people who were going to show up that had never been tapped before. And this surprised everybody. Something else he did that was extremely important were the rallies. And people downplayed these rallies and said, oh, well, so what? He gets 15,000 people to a rally. It wasn't about the number of people he got to a rally, although in some ways it was, because they got the names of all those people and they could get a hold of them and send them out to go ballot harvest or do whatever. But what was even more important was he made an end run around the media by going to local media that the national media wouldn't cover him in the same way. The same way Reagan could do an end run around the media by going into presidential addresses to the American people. But by Trump's time, you couldn't do that because the national media wouldn't cover him. They simply wouldn't. People kept saying, well, why doesn't he do a town hall and explain this? They won't cover him. And we're seeing Bobby Kennedy have the same problem here, is the media will not cover him. I came up with an idea a couple of days ago. Trump and RFK Jr. need to do a pay-per-view town hall.
Okay.
A pay-per-view.
Wow.
That's interesting. That's wrestling.
Divide the money between the campaigns.
Yeah.
Oh,
And this, I bet you this would generate 55 million people.
Wow.
That is
Oh, that's interesting. All right, so
all right.
before
I don't know why I'm not on Trump's team. I don't know.
I was going to ask you, how much is he paying you? Before we go, I want to ask you, the Republican Party right now is making some very interesting choices. They're seeming to pair up with the whole LGBTQ movement. And as you've been around for a while, you've seen kind of the history of the Republican Party. Are they going to survive this? Because, man, this is not looking very healthy ethically for them.
Correct. And of course, you're going to have a split there between those. Same thing that happened with immigration. You're going to have a split between those who want to stand up for traditional family, closed borders, America First economy, pro-gun, anti-abortion, wherever it's feasible. We saw what happened in Kansas, and we saw what happened in Montana. When you try to go too far with the abortion laws, you're going to lose big. And if you lose everything big, well, there's not too much left to stand for if you can't get a voice in politics. So I agree that the Republican Party is on the verge of a major split. But I think the MAGA section of that, DeSantis is not going to get one of those 13 million Trump voters. Trump is going to get a lot of the DeSantis voters only because they're going to go, I don't want Rutabaga again for 4 more years, or worse, Campuchia Harris.
PatriotsHistoryUSA.com. Is there any other place that people can go to? Are you on internet? Are you on Twitter? Please tell me you're on Twitter.
He is.
Yeah, at Larry Schweikart.
Okay, we can go there.
And you can get all my great nicknames there on Twitter.
Good.
On YouTube, on my Wild World of History channel, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern, I am reading through Patriots' History of the United States. And I make extensive commentary and discussion. So we just got to the Battle of Lexington. And then I have a wildworldofpolitics.com site where I mostly talk politics. And there's all sorts of stuff on there. By the way, guys, I'm trying to turn Patriots History into a John Adams, Sons of Liberty type video series, the Chosen type video.
Okay.
And we're financing it with Buy Larry a Coffee. So go watch the trailer there at wildworldofhistory.com. If you like it, buy me a coffee or buy me 500 coffees. I promise I won't use it on drumsticks.
Wildworldofhistory.com.
That's great. That's
Larry,
great, Larry.
thank you for joining us. Appreciate you very much.
Thank you, guys.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until next time, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
The Word of God is living and active, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing to the division of soul and of spirit, of joints and marrow. Through the Spirit, God's Word changes lives. It cuts us to the heart and reshapes us. As you strive to read and study Scripture, having a good set of tools can help. From setting reminders for a great reading plan, to word studies and commentaries that shed light on difficult passages, to listening on the go, the Olive Tree Bible app can help you dig into the Word wherever you are. Olive Tree Bible app. Read, study, listen, anywhere.